And it is working. We are live. I had to do an extra app thing in Facebook, and I feel so technical now that I solved it. But we are here, 2:02. I think that's good enough. Yeah. And we have Maeve Höglund with us. Hi! I'm so happy, and I want to say welcome to Maeve. I also want to say welcome to everybody, because I want to say welcome to Wake Up Wednesdays. That is what we're doing now in this group on Wednesdays. Woohoo! And we're waking up, and we're waking up to this extraordinary life that we can have. We really are about winning in leadership without losing ourselves in the process. And what I love about this woman that I share this split screen with is that she is tremendously helpful in finding that authenticity, in finding that self and the true self. And she is using the cunning tool, the voice. So welcome, Maeve Höglund. I say Höglund because you have a very, very Swedish last name.
Yeah, it is Swedish. That's the beautiful pronunciation from my native sister.
Oh, yes. But to be clear, you are indeed American.
Yes, I am.
Yes, all right. So I'm just lucky to have a Swedish sister in my American pond. This is amazing. You are a classical singer.
Yes, an opera singer, professional opera singer.
Professional opera singer. I see posts all the time about these amazing concerts and stuff that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about your singing background. I want people, including myself, to know a little bit more about what you're doing there.
Oh, thanks. Of course. Well, it's so awesome to be here, Linda. Thank you so much for having me on your first Wake Up Wednesdays. So exciting. And yeah, like you so poignantly pointed out, I am an international opera singer and a divine voice transformation coach. And how that all kind of like wraps up together is, you know, I've always been an artist. I've always been a creative. I've always been in the vein of wanting to express myself through emotions and language and story. And that's really how I came to opera. I was first in theater and then played piano and did music, and all these elements of like culture and travel and, you know, varieties of history really attracted me. And that actually just came together perfectly in the art form of opera. So, you know, I studied at conservatory and travel all over the world, studying the various classical languages. And, you know, one thing led to another after much persistence and commitment. And now I do sing full time all over the world. You know, my years are in singing are about 6 months singing, 6 months off, which is pretty good considering the roles that you do in opera are really massive and can be like an Olympic sport. So an operatic production can be very much like putting on a wedding.
Yes.
I always compare it to a wedding because that's how people can actually understand what it means to actually put on a production with like costumes and people and food and, you know, coordinating events and a timeline. And so, yeah, that has really matured into this whole vein of performance, storytelling, and really connecting with people, not only through my art form on the stage, but also off stage. And really sharing with the people that I work with in Divine Voice Transformation as to how I have come to develop myself as that professional artist. And the disciplines and the mind frames, in addition to, you know, how have I actually made myself more free in the production of my voice to really resonate a real, true, authentic, pure, penetrating sound.
Ah, so beautiful. Thank you for that. And yes, of course, having that, I call it divine connection with voice that you have been given, but not also. It's so funny when we're talented with something, it always seems like a gift. But it's like, well, it's a very, very cultivated gift. And in that cultivation, you have found so many gems. I actually, for everybody to know, lost my voice a couple of weeks ago and had the fortune of speaking with Maeve. And just through the way I was blocking certain things in my voice box, in my speaking up for myself, in my truth, we managed to unlock that and get my voice back. And so it is in this connection that you have to what we can call a gift, but it's also the cultivation. And we connect on a lot of different levels, you and I. And I know that's something that resonated when we talked about it, because I have myself personally always been very sensitive to voices in business. So here we are more than 1,600 women in this group, and we are all connected to business life somehow, or we're in a leadership role. And we know that how we use our voices, I've been mocked by male colleagues if I get angry about something and I say, this is how I want it. This is how I want it, and then they mimic my voice, because as a woman, I think that we are a little bit at a disadvantage at times, the way that we are in this patriarchal structure that we're conducting business under still. It doesn't mean it's going to be forever. It is hard sometimes for a lot of women to feel that their voices are getting heard. And I distinguish between the source of your voice and the quality of your voice. Can you speak to that? Because that's just I have no voice training other than being sensitive to it. And I know that my voice has lowered and found another source through all my years of meditation. Can you speak to, from your expert view, about your voice as a source and your voice as a quality of your voice?
Yeah, totally. So one thing that I think is really helpful, and this is a lot of from my background in developing in theatrical training, is, when, for instance, if we're on a stage or when we're just in the platform of being listened to, whether it's a theater or we're on the stage as a speaker or we're in the boardroom or a conference room speaking to clients, colleagues, what have you, we have the attention of people. And a lot of what can be the translatory energy from the source of what you're trying to say, what you're trying to communicate, ideas being, transmitted, and then ultimately, the story, idea, and or, conversation that you're trying to lead for a particular result or outcome, right? So if you're on the stage and you're a comedian, like your outcome is people laughing. If you're in the office and you're pitching an idea, the outcome is to get everyone to get on board. If you're having a conversation one-on-one with a friend and your outcome is to really have a resolution in that dialogue, again, it goes back to where are the sources of how I am commanding my thoughts, my feelings, and my emotions about whatever it is I'm talking about. And where people, I believe, get really disconnected, and I'll speak to, mainly women, since that's the bulk of your group, is that we have been conditioned to cut ourselves off from those parts. And it is not to disqualify or, shut down the masculine energy that's present in our workforce, but that tends to be less emotional. The feminine carries the nurturer, carries the, the feeling, the community, the connector. And when we are in an environment that is all like strategy, philosophy, analytic, kind of energy,
Yeah.
there isn't much room for the emotional, for the instinctual, for the impulsive, for the really deep creative birth of things, without some sort of like squelch of whatever, that's not, and how's that going to result in our bottom line, et cetera, et cetera. And so for me, the reality is that it's actually the mixture of the two that is the perfect formula. So you don't want to just have all masculine, you don't want to have all just feminine. But if we know first and foremost what our source is, then we can translate that out, and in response to whoever we're conversing with, we also allow for their input, information, ideas to be mixed with that source. That actually becomes validation for us then to really be able to translate and speak freely. And, a lot of women I see that I work with, they stand and not even speaking in a really pronounced, declarative, strong manner, because they think they're going to rock the boat of the energy. They think they're going to rock they're going to shake the cage of, being too bold, or being too confident, or being too, self-assured. But it's in that I believe many women they give their power away.
Yes. By thinking that they shouldn't be as powerful as they are. They put a lid on themselves. I actually have friends in business who have told me regarding their voices that they speak up here, like they have the energy up here, and that is not to threaten anyone.
Absolutely.
Just so that everybody knows that they are there and they don't mean any harm. And I always get breathing problems when I have I'm like,
yeah.
Because, and this is where the source of the voice is such an interesting topic, because if the source of our voice is that we're afraid of our own power, then that's going to come across as an energy that doesn't have much oomph to it, right?
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
I love that too, that you said, it's like we're almost afraid more of our power. We're afraid more of our light, of our influence, of our impact. And, that is really what I'm so passionate about. And that's exactly almost to the T what my mission statement is with Divine Voice Transformation, is to help women locate their divine voice so that they can actually erupt out of them and translate all their kind of inner wisdom so that they can really become impactors and influencers in their communities, in their networks, in their businesses. Because the more we empower ourselves, the more it validates others to be empowered.
Yes, it does. And that is such an important point, especially for this group, because I know that there are a lot of women here struggling with feeling that confidence in relation to, for instance, having a presentation and leading a team. All the while, what you were just saying, with how it actually translates into and transfers into other people. So your team will suffer from you quenching and clenching those energy power flows that you could be tapping into.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, and I think, maybe for those of you watching the replay, think of a recent scenario where you were in the room, and let's just use females for this exercise, where you were in the room and you just were like, you were just at ease. You just felt almost like how's the word? It's almost like, all engines got to like settle for a second. They got to rest. And you really were able to hear what they were saying based on not only what they were saying, but how they were saying it, the pace they were saying it at, their body posture, how their eyes switched from one side to another, how they looked at you when they spoke, when they talked. Were they having like, a lot of interjections, or was everything streamlined? And then think of a conversation or interaction that maybe you had recently that was not like that and made you really tense and really uptight and perhaps even frustrated that they couldn't get the words out and they couldn't clearly state what it is they wanted to say.
Right.
I think this is really important to identify the difference of how it makes the whole transaction either work really well to create or to disrupt the creative energy.
Yes. And so speaking of, so we're now very much in the source of our voices, like, and I know that singers, they sing all the way down to their butts.
Yeah,
like they can feel the vibration in the vagina.
Yep.
and it's like, so you have this physical source, but there's also an energetic. For some people, it's spiritual. For some people, finding their authentic voice has a lot to do with actually being aligned with something bigger than themselves, that their mission in their company, their mission in whatever organization or whatever situation that they're in needing to speak is connected to something bigger. And so the source is really important dialogue, if you will, to have with yourself. And this, of course, we're both coaches, and this is some of the juicier parts of being a coach. So that's the source. But then also when it comes to the quality of voice, of a voice, do you have any, because I know that there are women, both listening and who I speak with, who are bothered by the sound of their own voices. Can you speak to that a little bit? Can they do something about it? Is it only a mindset issue, or are there actually physical things or mental things that you can do?
Yeah, I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because I actually love talking about it, and actually it's not talked about it, which is why I think I found the calling to do the work that I'm doing. And that is that people who, if you actually look behind the curtain by many public figures, you will find that they've been coached to speak. They've been coached how to vocalize in their either their speeches or their dialogue or whatever public conversations that they're having. And it makes such a difference, right? I mean, I won't say any names because I'm not getting political on this live. But you can think of like two polar opposites that like completely talk differently. And one is just like super ignorant and one is just like the most eloquent. So,
I wonder.
Use your imagination. Now, and I can guarantee you that one person did not have vocal coaching.
I can guarantee you that as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, that person has had no coaching
whatsoever, period. In the end.
But case in point, that actually what is missing for a lot of people is the actual practice of vocalizing, of speaking. When my mom was in school growing up, they had arithmetic. I think that's what it's called, right? Like learned how to write, how to write in cursive, and they learned how to speak.
Rhetoric, yeah.
Rhetoric, thank you.
Yeah.
That was a part, I don't know if that was in your schooling, but it certainly was not for me, but that was a piece of how people were raised. And even if you think back in the 1940s, 50s, and, radio broadcasters, even TV broadcasters, they all had a very similar tonality to their voice. Well, that was specifically a type of training vocally, productive-wise, that they all went through. And that is actually something that has been removed from, a lot of societal and entrepreneurial packages when people are, going on the circuit to being in a public figure. However, what's amazing is because of the amazing connectiveness that we have now through Facebook and online modules, we are actually entering back into those traditions. And so a lot of what I speak about in terms of production of sound is actually how to get in the practice, just like we were to like go to the gym and exercise or, really be in discipline about, if we're eating, our protein shakes or we're, we're being mindful about our nutrition. It's the same actually as a practice in how we deliver who we are to, whether it's a camera or it's our website or it's our podcast or it's the boardroom or it's a stage of 3,000 people in the audience. It is actually a practice and a developed skill that also needs to be added to women's toolkit. And so a lot of where I start with those practices is one, the breath. And a lot of people who experience yoga or who, are in the practice of doing any sort of physical conditioning know about the breath based on the necessity to regulate it.
Yes.
So people who can like run and talk know a lot about this. Or if people are, right?
Yes.
In addition to, getting into contact with the breath, how does that then support the tone? Because that's where people get caught up in their, hi, up here, or down, low below, is they're actually, either putting pressure on parts of their vocal box, their vocal folds, and the throat as a conditioning of how they learned how to speak. So in essence, it's actually another piece of learning how to support your voice, keep it healthy. This is an all-around, right? It's an all-around self-care of, how you treat your instrument body.
Yeah. What are some of the worst things that you can eat or drink or do to mess up the quality of your voice? And what I mean with messing up is and you correct me if I'm wrong, but there is something to mess up the clarity of your voice, to mess up the options and the range that you have with your voice. What do you do to really mess it up? I mean, smoking would be like the real stupid thing to do.
Well, just disclaimer, I don't profess to be like a doctor or nutritionist, so
of course, neither of us
this
are.
Is all my opinion.
There are no doctors in the house right now for everybody to know.
Okay, cool. So, to each their own, like this is your own journey and I can only speak from my own experience. But yes, obviously, I mean, a lot of things impact actually the condition of our voice. And I think probably some of the most obvious ones are, no smoking, getting rest, hydration. That is the number, I would put that first. Like that's the number one thing. I know, grab your glass of water.
I hydrate all the time.
Where's your water? So that's actually probably the most common thing that people omit in their regular day is drinking water. And I don't mean drinking soda. I don't mean drinking alcohol. I don't mean drinking juice. I mean water, straight up H2O. And because our bodies are 80% water. And so our body's constantly replenishing and, moving all the toxins out. So depending on, where we're feeling, it doesn't matter. Water will always supply the necessary hydration for the vocal folds itself. In addition to you also not getting a dry mouth. And you'll see people who I'm going to drink some more.
Good. Yeah.
You'll see people who are like on a panel or something, or people who are doing a TED Talk, they always have water there. Comedians always have water. I mean, obviously there's a reason for that. Also, I would say like screaming, yelling, also not a positive proponent for healthy vocal production.
Yeah.
Depending on your body type and your body reaction to certain foods, I can't really categorize which ones to avoid. I can tell you from my experience, dairy doesn't really do it for me. It causes a lot of mucus and a lot of postnasal drip. And so people who, I will just say postnasal drip is not a good indication for good health because what it does is it dries out the vocal cords. So things that can cause postnasal drip for some people are like dairy, acidic foods, so like alcohol, tomato sauce, any sort of citrus thing. In addition, people can have, dust in their house and be allergic to dust. Others can be allergic to pets like cats or dogs and like have certain, the oil in their skin can actually cause a reaction in your sinuses. So I actually have clients who clear their throat on a continual basis, and we've been able to address that based on pieces of their environment that they've been able to switch, change and actually, completely alter, and it's actually really supported the clearing of their sinuses, which is really important, because then if you're talking, you're not going
yeah.
I just have a really funny story. I was with my mom buying some furniture this past week, and we had this guy who we were asking about the prices of the couch, and he would ever so often go like this. I was like, no joke. He would like snort full on, like. I was like, what is he doing? Like
a tick, or was it a throat thing? Or no, he was just snorting. I
told my mom, I go, Mom, I think he has Tourette's or something. I mean, she got a good laugh out of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, the point is that, it's not, no shame on him. But the point is that if we have these habits that are bothering or interrupting, our signal, which I consider like our communication signal, that distracts people. That kind of, deters people from actually hearing what you're trying to say, because they're more focused on your sniffling or your throat clearing or whatever.
This is such a hugely important point, and especially in this leadership group that we're in right now, because I know that we all have examples where we have stood up to talk about something that we really believe in, and we find this voice and we find this energy and we have a flow to what we're saying, and people listen. And then we have other experiences where we're not connected with that, and something else happens. That's when we start with our tics and our weirdness, and we try to remember what we're going to say. There's not that flow to it. And so the reason I bring that up after you've told me the sniffle story is that people are on the receiving end very sensitive. We're all very sensitive to energies and weirdness, and we have all these survival functions and psychology that just hits, it sets in, and we may have a great business deal in front of us, but something doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
And it can be that very thing, which is the voice either connected to the source or to the actual quality of the voice. So I think that your tips here are I'm so very grateful for them, because this is an area of self-care that I have to say I rarely hear about. And here you are.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, but can I respond to that?
Of course.
So much good stuff that you just said. It's so true. They're actually, I love how you do break it up in terms of source and then the actual tonality of the voice. And the thing about it is that they're connected. Like, actually, one can't function without the other. Like, you can't have the tonality and not the source of like what you're trying to say, vice versa. Because they're congruent. They're constantly like working off each other. And it's interesting too, because I talk a lot about those two chakra points, the throat chakra and the sacral chakra. Like, those two actually communicate in dialogue, both to support one another. And when we don't have clarity about, what we believe to be true in whatever we are talking about, passionate about, communicating to our audience, then that translates to a vocal outward experience. Yeah. So people don't actually think that like sniffing or it's doing their random tics,
right,
is actually an indication that we're nervous or that we don't feel confident about what we're saying. And let's face it, we're human beings, and we're constantly reading people's body language. Yeah. We're constantly reading their eyes. We're constantly reading their hands. I mean, I'm so observant to the point of I watch people's breathing, because you can even feel if they're at ease or if they're tense. And people sometimes can be really deceptive too about this. They can seem like they've got it all together, but if you were to get them on a massage table, they would be a mess.
Yes. Yes.
So what's important is you talking about these kind of self-care elements is, and I talk about that too, that being a really big piece. Like, how are you taking care of your body, mind, and soul? Are you taking care of your body from a physical form of exercise or just engagement? Are you also supporting it in terms of it staying as highly functional as possible through massage or acupuncture or any sort of like reflexology or, hot tubbing or whatever that allows for your body to like get a break, because all the energy that we sometimes have to sustain is exhausting. And, the better that we can like really monitor it from not going like up, down, will really support us in being able to be level most of the time and, really be super fruitful in any, conversation, interaction, dialogue with whomever we're speaking to, whether it's somebody on the street or somebody on the stage.
That's so beautiful. And I know that this big channel that we have, this voice box that's connected to everything from the divine to our coughing, that
right.
is this complicated and beautiful machinery. And I know that you work so beautifully with people and in them finding their authentic voice and finding their power. And I know that you work very holistically. In other words, you look at this whole spectrum that you're talking about. And you did tell me that your website is currently being updated.
Yes.
And that we can find you at divinevoicetransformation.com.
Yep.
Is that true?
Woo-hoo! That is true.
Divine Voice yes. So I'm going to put that in the comments afterwards so that they have a direct link there. And please do keep in mind, everyone, that it's under construction, but it'll be up before you know it. And you can always send Maeve an email to express your interest in being powerful beyond belief. What I really would like to make very clear in this Wake Up Wednesday is that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your voice. There is nothing wrong with your source. There is nothing wrong at all here. What Maeve can do and what we're doing in support of each other in this group is to wake each other up to all the beauty that is not wrong with you. We have lived a life where we have put a lot of garbage in the way, but that's different from having to think that we need to reach out and attain new stuff. We are getting new insights, but the insights and the transformational experiences that I know that you give are not about really putting anything new inside. There's no new source. There's nothing wrong in that sense. This is a beautiful explorative journey of really connecting with and coming in contact with that which is already so beautiful within us.
Absolutely. It's just unlocking it, because the reality is we do have layers of conditioning and, preconceived beliefs and, ideas about how we are supposed to be. But we all know what that truth is inside of us. It's always been there since our birth. And it just takes a little bit of digging and investigative tactics to unleash it.
Yes, and in the right order, with someone who can guide you on that path. And who better than you? I warmly recommend anyone to contact Maeve. She certainly does wonders with me and has done. So
thank you so much, Linda. And if it works too, while my site's under construction, I can post my group, my Facebook group, which is a way for people to contact me as well. And that'll give you just an intermediary time to connect with me before my website gets up.
Of course, and if you have a group where people can get inspired, it's even better. We're all on Facebook already, so that's great. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we say bye-bye for this time?
Yeah, I think I would love to just share with the ladies that this work is so important. And the reason why it's so important is because we are weaving a web. Actually, I love my little spider card that I have in my little office mantle. Because I'm always reminded how we are the mothers of creation. And as women, we have such an amazing gift and responsibility to continue growing the span of our life experience here, not only if we're mothers for our children, but also just for, the future of this amazing, planet and universe that we are so honored and blessed to experience. And by us weaving together our stories, our truths, our divinity, are we really, setting forth the opportunity for other people to plug in their webs as well?
Thank you. So beautiful. I am looking forward to having you here soon again. And until then, good luck getting your website up and running. I know that you have so many projects and wonderful things going all the time. So it's going to be fun to check that out, and your group that we're going to post under here. And for all the rest of you, I am looking forward to seeing you next Wednesday, because we're going to wake up to more than just our voices. We are waking up to this awesomeness that we truly are. Thank you again, Maeve, for being here, and we'll see you around.
My pleasure. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.